Hey, East Texas. This is a podcast where we discuss local, helpful information with the people and the stories behind it. In partnership with Mobberly Baptist Church. I'm your host, Brandon Watson. Well, welcome back to Hey, East Texas, where we highlight the people and the stories that are making a big difference and make East Texas great. It is good to be nearing the end of season 3, but it's been a fantastic season, our first season on YouTube, and we're thankful for you joining us. Before we jump in with our special guest, we want to give a shout out to this episode's sponsors. Our first sponsor is Juicy's Taco. Family owned and operated. They use fresh ingredients and scratch-made sauces to ensure the best flavors in every bite. There are multiple East Texas Juicy's Tacos locations ready to serve you. Our next sponsor is Film Alley, Longview's premier theater, offering an incredible experience. Enjoy their ST immersive theater, scratch kitchen cuisine, duck pin bowling, arcade games, and more. Dine, watch, play, celebrate. That's Film Alley in Longview. Well, we're talking East Texas leaders, and today on our episode, we welcome Geoffrey Davis. He's the Executive Director of Hope Road Counseling, and he's also the campus pastor at Mobberly's Marshall location. Under Geoffrey's leadership, Hope Road offers gospel-centered professional counseling services to help people across East Texas, walking alongside them in seasons of crisis, growth, and restoration. As a pastor, he brings both biblical teaching and compassionate care to the Marshall community. Today, we're going to talk to Geoffrey about how these two callings intersect and how Hope Road functions in a region with real need and how he balances the weight and rewards of ministry and counseling in tandem. So, Geoffrey, we want to welcome you to the Hey East Texas podcast. Man, it's good to have you on.
Thanks, Brandon. I'm grateful to have any kind of conversation with you anytime, but even this is more fun. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as we start with every guest, tell us about your upbringing, where you grew up. I mean, you're an East Texas guy.
I am.
Through and through. So tell everybody a little bit and then about your family.
Yeah, for sure. I grew up just right down the road from here. We're recording this podcast, and Mobberly is my home church. So grew up coming to church 2-3 times a week right here on East Loop 281. My parents were members here from the early 80s, and then we just, that's where I came to know Christ as an 8-year-old. I accepted Christ through the ministry of Mobberly and went to VBS and made the decision that I needed to make that public, and ended up being baptized 1992, I believe is what it was, in August of 92.
I won't even tell you what I was doing in 92.
I would love to know what you were doing in 92.
I was getting ready to graduate college.
Yeah, man. Hey, I know how you feel. I was on ETBU's campus a couple weeks ago, and a student there was talking about another school where I had also attended. I said, but I was there before you were born. And he said, no, not a chance. And I said, what year were you born? Absolutely. I was in college before he was born. So,
wow.
All right, so I'm with you, man. But yeah, I grew up here in East Texas, Hallsville School graduate. I was a Bobcat. Went on to college and went a few different routes in college. Part of my story is actually, even though I grew up in church, I tried to walk away from God in college my freshman year and tried to do life without him. Ended up kind of at the bottom of the barrel. I love how some pastor says, he says, the good news of Jesus is that it's not that you don't fall in a pit, but whenever you go in a pit, there's always a solid bottom, and that's Christ.
Yeah.
And I found that.
That's
and
rich.
So, yeah, it's just a really cool story of God's grace. And not long after that, God called me to ministry and tried to figure out what that was going to look like, and sought some counsel from several of my mentors and people who cared for me growing up, pastored me, and God just kept giving me opportunities to serve. I just kept saying yes to opportunities, and here I am.
There you are. Well, let's talk a little bit about Hope Road. How did Hope Road start? And then tell us a little bit about the journey, how you became the executive director. And I'm sure that's quite a bit.
There's a lot there.
Yeah.
Hope Road started much like many of our stories go. Like nothing goes perfectly, and there's always more to the story than you're really able to tell all the time, but what you see over all of it is God's hand of providence. And so God puts the idea in the hearts of some people at Mobberly, and in 2018, it's publicly launched with a team of people who had been kind of behind the scenes working as an advisory council, and they launched Hope Road publicly in 2018. First year had 400 and something odd sessions that they did that year, and just a couple of counselors on staff meeting in an office that they thought they'd never grow into. And within a few years, they had more counselors than they could fit in the offices, and it was like playing an incredible puzzle every day, just trying to make sure that everybody could meet with all the people that wanted to meet with them for counseling. And you just see God bless it over the years. I was talking with the former executive director, Greg Zachary, the other day, and just talking about how year over year, Hope Road has grown almost consistently with an additional 2,000 sessions every year from the time it began to now. And so now this year in 2025, we have on the books about 11,400 sessions, which is really incredible.
That's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
That is so neat. And it tells you about the need.
Yeah.
And I think before we talk really more about really the vision and the mission of Hope Road, I think it's important that we talk about, sometimes there's a stigma that's associated with counseling. And I always loved that somebody told me a long time ago, it says you will always do maintenance on your house and your car.
That's right.
And view counseling as that. Now, granted, there are times when we're in those crisis situations and things like that. But what would you add to that counseling shouldn't have that stigma?
Yeah, I mean, think back to when you were a kid, and did you ever have your shoelaces tied so tight that you just couldn't quite get them undone? And you had to get something, like you had to reach for your Bic pen or your pencil or whatever it was and kind of stick it in there and pry it open. That's what a counselor does. There's nothing voodoo about it. It's just They just know the right questions to ask, and they're trained in some of the right skills to help you unlock some of the things that are going on inside of you, some of the things that might be confusing, some of the things that might be causing anxieties, even some of the things that just to be a listening ear or a voice of wisdom in your life. It meets a huge need. Everybody needs godly counselors.
Well, how would you describe the mission and the values of Hope Road Counseling?
That's a great question. Our values are the same values as Mobberly, man. We're all part of this church and the same mission. We believe that counseling is needed in our area and in the world in a Christ-centered way. We've been preaching through the book of Esther at our church, and you can see how King Xerxes is lacking wisdom, and he's looking for wisdom, and he gets it in all the wrong places. And there's advice out there everywhere.
Yeah, King Solomon's son.
Yeah. You can find any advice you want to find. You can find it. And so it's usually just a reflection of what you're looking for in the first place. But what happens in the story of Esther is you meet Esther and you meet this guy Mordecai. And by the end of Esther, Mordecai is by God's providence the guy who brings finally consistent godly wisdom to King Xerxes, and not only as a blessing to God's people, but as a blessing to the whole world through the Persian Empire and the king. And so that's what Hope Road does. We provide godly wisdom and counsel that's Christ-centered. So no matter what you're going through, you can always look deeper into your own story and into your past or into the story that's happening around you in the world and find where Jesus is at work. And that's where we find ultimate healing.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what types of counseling is available? I mean, obviously you have people that specialize, counselors that specialize in a certain area, but what are some of the types of counseling that Hope Road offers?
Well, I'll start with my own story. My story started with just me and Jill seeking some additional help for some things we were struggling with in our lives. And so we just some relationship things and some questions about purpose and identity and some things related to anxiety. And so we started before Hope Road was even a thing. We just kind of ventured into counseling. After a while, we kind of asked ourselves, is this really doing anything? We're not really sure. It almost seems like we're going to a counselor who just wants to talk about themselves. And is that what it's supposed to be like? Maybe all this counseling stuff is not what it's cracked up to be. And so about that time, we met through Hope Road, one of our counselors, and went to a session with one of our counselors. And in fact, Jill was the first one to go to a session at Hope Road. And she came back and said, hey, actually, whatever we were doing before, I don't know what that was, but this is counseling. And this is really helpful. She said, I went to the session and I was able to name what was going on with me. I was able to make a plan with my counselor for how am I going to get through this, and how are we going to, in the next 6 sessions, what are we going to cover to accomplish? And we're just struggling with just everyday life stuff. And so a lot of counselors are really gifted with things like that, of helping people navigate anxiety, helping people navigate leadership issues, which is where I was too, going through COVID as a pastor, and just even all the other things that we went through here at Mobberly in that time. And you go, I'm just personally struggling, and there's things that I need to help settle in my heart. Who am I as a pastor? Yeah. And you can't make a decision during COVID that anybody likes. So what am I supposed to do with that? I went to counseling through that, and I just found help as a leader. How do you navigate difficult leadership situations? There are people who come to counseling who struggle with coming out of abusive relationships, enduring abuse, and learning how to deal with past traumas. There are people who come to counseling who just need help navigating a relationship issue like a marriage or a dating relationship. And really, our counselors are situated to meet all kinds of needs on a huge spectrum of needs. You think about the book of Psalms and how it covers every aspect of the human psyche and emotion.
Oh, yeah, the ups and downs.
All the ups and downs, and everything you can name, you can find somewhere in the Psalms. And counselors are sort of the same way. At Hope Road, we love to invite people with whatever God's doing in their story, and we want to meet them right where they are and help them see what God might be up to and where God might want to lead them. And we do it in a professional way. So our counselors bring with a master's degree education at the minimum, then also an additional 3,000 hours of licensure hours, which are supervised associates license hours as professional counselors. Usually takes a few years to complete. So you're not coming in talking to somebody who's like just grabbed a degree off the internet yesterday or something.
Yeah,
You're talking to people who really are experts in a field that matters. And it's people who marry that experience and that education with the call that Jesus gives us, which is to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And so they've married those two things together. They love Jesus, they walk with Jesus, and they try to lead people with godly wisdom, also with professional skill sets.
Well, you shared a few minutes ago that Hope Road started with 400 plus sessions that first year, and then has grown almost to 12,000 now. There's obviously a great need, but there's also been a change and a new building with Hope Road. So tell us about the brand new facility or the brand new Hope Road Counseling building.
Yeah, just an incredible God story, how this came about. Several years in the making, but just this last summer, June 2025, we were able to open the new Hope Road Counseling Centers, 3517 Tryon Road, right here in Longview, on the backside of the Mobberly property. And it's an unbelievable facility. I mean, just beautifully the architecture is beautiful. You walk in and it's light and it feels calm. It's comfortable. It's inviting. I love walking down the hallway, that's not usually the part of the building you love in a new building, but the hallway just has these incredible vaulted, like tall ceilings with skylights on the top. And so when you walk in, it almost makes you look up, which I think is what we want people to do anyway, is look up. Not
and
just
there's
physically,
space.
but spiritually. And to find that and to find that space to really engage with what God might be doing. And so, I mean, I love that. We went from having just a few offices shared by 16 counselors, just around the clock puzzles, to now having 18 offices where our counselors have the ability to actually fill out an entire schedule, and they can meet with as many clients as they want. And we're already seeing more people than we've ever seen before, as we mentioned. And it's just a great blessing. And we've still got room, and that's the beautiful part.
Right.
The cool part about the building too is the back porch. I mean, you can't miss that. It's so nice because you walk out through, you think this is just an office building, and then you get to the back of the building and you see the windows and you get on the back porch and you can sit on the back porch and it overlooks Williams Lake, the Williams Lake property at Mobberly. And so you'll see someone riding their bike through the woods, or you'll see people hiking together, and you just listen to the birds and you get to watch the ducks on the water, and it's a peaceful environment. It's just an incredible place for ministry.
Yeah, that is great. I want to somewhat shift gears a little bit. I want to talk about your role as campus pastor over in Marshall, Mobberly's Marshall campus. your role and your vision as a pastor there and leading that campus, what you feel your main responsibilities and your vision there. But also, I want to come back and say, how does that executive director role at Hope Road connect with that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So my wife, Jill, and I moved back to East Texas from South Dakota, where we were part of a church planting team in 2016. And the thing that drew us back to East Texas was, first, the opportunity that God gave us for our son, Eli, when he was born, to know his grandparents. That was one of the first things we prayed
That's
for.
important, isn't it?
Yeah, and so we could have lived in the Black Hills of South Dakota for the rest of our lives and been really happy.
Yeah.
But people are more important. Family is really important. And so we thought maybe one day we'll get back to East Texas. And a week after we started praying for that, we got the call from Mobberly that there was a need in Marshall. And we thought, wow, could that be something we would want to do, could do? Because I had served as college minister, youth minister, worship minister, all these things. And the opportunity was where I felt God was always tugging me, was to be a pastor. And it didn't matter what role I filled at the church, I filled it as if I was shepherding those people. And I knew that I was a pastor at heart, even though I wasn't always a pastor at title. And so when this opportunity came up to pastor in Marshall and to be close to our family, wow, it was just a no-brainer. And to be part of the church that raised you is really an incredible blessing. And
it's kind of crazy going back and being on that side, right?
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like, but I think it's been a great experience for you in our conversations, but all these folks and these adults that you see at events and things like that, and you're like, oh yeah, I remember them when I was in the youth ministry.
It's so fun, and I love it. I love being able to reconnect with people. I love it when people come up to me and encourage me, and I take it as encouragement. I didn't at first. They go, "Oh, I've known you since you were this tall," and at first I thought, I want to be the grown up now, and I don't want to be the kid anymore. But no, they're encouraging, and I love that, man. It's always funny though. I'll come over to Longview and preach a sermon, and one of our sweet saints will come up and say, "You're so sweet. I just love seeing you grown up and so proud of you." And the pastor in me wants to go, "Well, what did God say to you through the sermon?"
Yeah,
but it's so fun.
But it's also them saying, "Look what God's done in your life."
Absolutely, yeah, and it's undeniable. I mean, the story is so full of undeniably God stories, and there's no reason. Some of these people who knew me as a kid probably are wondering why in the world God chose a guy like me to come back and be part of this story.
Okay, you're managing really two demanding roles, and a lot of different people count on you on both here at Hope Road and there in Marshall as well. How do you really work with the balance of that? Because you're a father, you're a husband, you're a son, you're a friend. You have all these different hats that your wife owns her own business. I mean, y'all have a lot happening. How do you protect that? How do you protect staying away from burnout, the tension, your spiritual life, your relational life, your emotional life? How do you balance that, Gio?
Boy, it's a great question, and I don't think I do it right all the time. But one of the things I try to go back to is something I learned from a Catholic theologian by the name of Henry Nouwen, and he talks about the old wagon wheel image. And when you think about all the things that pull us in, because I'm not unique. People are busy, and you ask anybody, how are you? They say, I'm busy, right? And so, yes, I have a lot going on, but I'm not unique. God can use anybody with any number of responsibilities. The question is, well, how do we orient our lives to what's most important? And the image of the wagon wheel is that you've got the spokes that represent all of the different things we do in our lives, whether it's family or jobs or schools or responsibilities or hobbies and all those things. And most of us spend our lives sprinting around the rim of the wheel, trying to catch every one of them.
Right.
And hopefully along the way, I'll catch some Jesus and some church, and then I'll give an adequate time to my family, and then I'll do well in my work. And we constantly are wearing ourselves out running around the rim. But the invitation of Jesus is that we would join him at the hub, where all the spokes can be within manageable reach. And so really it all starts with Jesus. And this is the message I preach to myself constantly. And it comes from Colossians 3 also. Paul's writing to the people of Colossae. These are people that are doing a lot. They're busy. There's a lot of economy, a lot of commerce in Colossae. And he says in chapter 3 that we should set our minds on things above and not on earthly things, the things that are with Jesus, who's seated at the right hand of the Father. And then the very next thing he says is to be transformed into Christ likeness, to lay off your old self and put on the new self in Christ. And then he starts talking about your relationship with your church, forgiving one another, bearing with one another, and showing grace to one another, singing songs together, all that. And then he talks about your husband and wives, then he talks about your parenting, and then he talks about your work. And here's what I find really interesting. Most of us have this, our lives are ordered in exactly the opposite way that Colossians 3 is laid out.
Yeah.
We start with our work, and we give our most important energy to our work. And after that, if there's anything left over, we give it to our kids.
Yeah.
And then after the kids go to bed, if there's anything left over, we give it to our spouse. And then after all is depleted, if there's anything left over, we might go to church if we have time. We may engage in some kind of spiritual formation. Like I may open my Bible one day if I just happen to have time. And then what happens is we just end up running ourselves ragged. But I wonder if Paul wasn't onto something in how he wrote that chapter. And maybe God wanted to show us that if we start with Jesus and our identity with him, that actually everything flows from that.
Right.
And we can give more than we ever could give on our own to all of those areas of life if we just start with Jesus. So, like, man, I don't get it right. I fail daily.
It's a journey, and we're all on that. Some do it better than others. It's just where we find ourselves on the wagon wheel, right?
Yeah. And so whenever I fail, I think, what would Brandon Watson do? That's what
No, don't do that. Don't do that. Well, I want to talk about really what is some of the breakthroughs or a story that you have from Hope Road. Obviously, we're not going to mention any names, but things that you've seen like happen at Hope Road that you were like, wow, I am so glad it's here. That ministry is here.
Man, and I can't, I don't actually even ever really look at the names of people that are coming in. Occasionally, if someone's waiting in the lobby, I'll say hi to them if I know them. But yeah, we are bound by the Health Information Protection Act. That same thing in your hospitals and doctors, unless you're signing a release of information.
That's important.
We're not saying names. It's a professional environment. And so that's a very serious thing for us. And we have a HIPAA compliance officer. And so anyone who's listening, who's wondering, and if I go to counseling, will everybody know? The answer is no. Even if you see your counselor out in the community, usually they're going to let you talk to them first. They're not going to go, oh, hey, how's it going with the things we talked about in session? That just doesn't happen.
No.
And so that's just a good thing to talk about and get that off right at the beginning so that people feel a lot more comfortable coming. But yeah, your question was about a story. And
or just something that you've witnessed or something that you've experienced while being the executive director.
Well, I think a couple things. From one is some marriages that have been restored. People who did not think they would make another day married to their spouse, who someone, usually a ministry or a church, that helps them engage in Christ-centered counseling through Hope Road and even helps cover some of the cost for them. And then ends up coming back around and saying, we're so glad we came because now there's hope. Now we see that we can actually work this out. Now we can move forward together. I think that there's nothing better than that because our world is so full of brokenness. And when you look at marriages, even Christian marriage, it's one of these top areas that we just, and a lot of times, unfortunately, Christianity and the church, we just look just like the world. We have the same, if not higher, divorce rate. And so is there a way that we can honor God with our lives and find true healing and hope? And yes, there is. And so I'm so glad that Hope Road is here for small stories like that. I think about on the other side of things where a guy calls me and says, hey man, there's a family that's just in great need. And I don't know how to help them, but I know they can get help at Hope Road. And he's like, can I just make a contribution so that there's scholarships available?
So that's huge, isn't it?
It's unbelievable because you see God working through all kinds of people.
Right. Maybe they went through something earlier in their life when they didn't have that available to them. And they're like, I want to make sure that somebody else has somebody to walk through that with them.
Yes.
And so I think God puts in us a heart of generosity. As pastors, there are times that Hope Road has been there when we have somebody that when we're meeting with them, we're like, absolutely, you need to speak with a professional counselor. I need to know my limits as a pastor.
Yeah.
And that I'm thankful that we have Hope Road there. Let's talk about partnerships that you have at Hope Road and some dreams.
Yeah.
I want to start here first. Y'all have a partnership with us at Mobberly because you are a Mobberly ministry, but it's Oasis in the Pines.
Yeah.
And that is a cool opportunity that pastors and missionaries and folks like that have an opportunity to come in and get some care.
That's right. Yeah. If your listeners don't know yet about Oasis in the Pines, they should go to oasisinthepines.org, or they can go to Mobberly's website and click on the Oasis in the Pines link in the ministries tab. But it's an incredible, brand new ministry that's right next door on Tryon Road at the moment with their first, what we call care cabin, or retreat cabin, where pastors and their spouses, missionaries and their spouses can find a week-long and very intentional retreat. Plenty of time just to relax, have fun, an unbelievable place to stay, beautiful setting, incredible people who prepare meals for them, take care of all their needs, but aren't like in the way, because when you go on a retreat, you don't really want to hang out with everybody else.
Yeah.
They just do such a good job of creating a good space. And then Hope Road gets to dovetail with Oasis in the Pines by providing counseling, Christ-centered counseling and spiritual direction for the folks who come. And so part of the experience is time available with a counselor. Sonia Reeder, who is our Senior Director of Spiritual Formation, she's been working with pastors and leaders and missionaries for a long time and just is so gifted at getting right to the point with them and really helping them kind of, the feedback we've gotten as people is that, wow, we've been in ministry for decades and we've needed this. And so I think it's a huge opportunity. It's another ministry of Mobberly that we get to support and really glad to do so.
What about partnerships with other churches or other pastors or ministries, or maybe even corporations that say, hey, we want to be involved and we believe in what you're doing? Yeah. I mean, what's a dream for that?
Well, it started with what we have, and that God has put together some really cool things. One of my favorite things about Hope Road is that it is a ministry of Mobberly, but it's a ministry to the community. So you don't have to be a Mobberly member to come to counseling. You don't have to be even a Christian to come to counseling. Sometimes we've done some studies and seen that almost 40% of people who come to counseling don't have any connection to a church whatsoever. And that's an opportunity that we have to represent Christ to people who need to hear the good news of Jesus. And that's where they will hear the good news. And that's where Jesus meets their deepest need sometimes. And so that's a really beautiful opportunity. We also have tons of churches who in our area love to partner with us. And so they'll either send people and they'll sponsor sessions, a certain number of sessions for someone. They'll maybe pay from their church budget for someone to get access to counseling. Or we have a church partner structure where churches can pay like a one-time annual fee, and then money from that fee, the majority of it, becomes available to their church people for discounts. So every time one of their church members comes for a session, they automatically get a discount off the fee. And that's just a great, great thing. And what I've
That helps.
It helps. And the beautiful thing, and this is going to the dream part of it.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I'm a pastor. I'm not a counselor. I love counseling. I've benefited from counseling.
Right.
But being on this side of things in church ministry, I believe that every pastor needs a counselor, a godly, Christ-centered professional counselor. And if we can be a part of churches and pastors becoming healthier, we can be part of, Lord willing, churches becoming healthier. And then it's not just about our church growing, your church not growing, or whatever. It's about if we can be parts of God growing the kingdom through all kinds of churches in all kinds of places. I think it's one of the things that we do at Mobberly that's positioned us to have the most impact, probably next to missions, like global missions. The next maybe most impact we have in the kingdom of God, I think maybe through our ministry to other churches through Hope Road Counseling.
That's great. All right, we're about to jump into the big 7.
Oh, man, all right.
All right, I hope you're ready. We're going to learn some wisdom, more wisdom from Geoffrey Davis. But before we do that, let's take a moment to hear from our sponsors.
Why settle for the other guys when you can have the best? Only at Juicy's Taco.
Step into fun at Film Alley in Longview. Experience movies in recliner seating and ST immersive technology. Have a blast at our duck pin bowling lanes, the thrilling arcade, and enjoy delicious meals from the Scratch Kitchen. Watch, dine, play, celebrate at Film Alley. Okay, we're back and we're talking with Geoffrey Davis here at HEYETX. He is the executive director at Hope Road Counseling and the campus pastor at the Marshall campus with Mobberly Baptist Church. Okay. All right, Geoffrey, we're jumping into the Big Seven because you've helped co-host. Back in the day, you helped co-host.
Season 1.
Yes. These are 7 questions that we ask every guest, and we start with this. What is the greatest lesson you've ever learned? Question number
right
one.
out of the gate. So
Yes.
thinking about this a little bit, not overthinking it, but lots of things I probably could say, but I go back to just looking at the people who raised me, parents, grandparents, and it doesn't come down to something they said to me, but just a cumulative knowledge based on watching their lives is how important people are. And I think they reflect God in this way, that it didn't matter if it was at work or if it was at home. People are the most important. I think about my granddad and his work and the kind of things he would say about the people who worked for him. I've been able to work professionally with someone who worked for my grandfather, and to hear the respect and to hear the stories of care and love that he showed his employees is pretty cool. I remember my dad feeding Thanksgiving meals and Christmas meals to the guys that worked for him in his business, and just seeing him invest in people and give second and third and fourth chances to people who probably didn't deserve it, but just really showing me that people are more important than pretty much everything else.
Yeah, that's valuable because God didn't build us for isolation. He built us for community, built us to be a part of more than just ourselves. And I will say this, that whenever I came here to Longview in December of 2018, you think about that, that's right the same year that Hope Road was starting. Right. It was so new. And I will say this, that starting our friendship then in 2018, it's been a great friendship. And it's been an open, honest dialogue.
Yeah.
Somebody that I feel like I could just talk with, and sometimes maybe even vent. Maybe sometimes somebody that gets ministry, somebody that gets life, that goes through relationship struggles with maybe friendships or things like that. You just always have been a great person to talk with. And when you talked about people being important, that just reminded me of, I'm just thankful for our friendship as well.
Man, yeah, me too, Brandon.
Yeah.
We could use this time right here. If you got any grievances you want to air about anybody, let's just put it out there, right?
Let's stop it. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, let's jump into question number 2, because that would go south real quick. Number 2 is, how has failure shaped your life? This is what lessons, really.
Well, yeah. I think of a story when we were church planting. The first week we were there in South Dakota, and we had these dreams of a massive college ministry. I'd served in a large college ministry in Waco, almost 1,000 students, and then I served in student ministry here at Mobberly, several hundred students. You get in that, especially as a young guy, and you think like, I know how to do ministry to reach a lot of people. The very first event we did in South Dakota, we put hundreds and hundreds of dollars into it. We put lots of man hours. We passed out flyers all over campus. We had advertising going out on social media. We did everything you're supposed to do. And we reached one person.
One person showed up.
One person showed up. Now, here's the funny part. Eventually, I guess you could say it was 2, because eventually I think he felt so awkward, he texted his girlfriend and she showed up for a little bit. But man, it was a heartbreak. We were going, what have we done? We've moved across the country. We had these dreams of a great ministry. How in the world is this going to work? And a pastor that I served with, Doug Hickson, who's one of our Mobberly's church plant partners for a long time, he said every church planter is allowed a $1,000 mistake. The dollar amount doesn't really matter, but I think what he was showing me is that there's grace. And yeah, really, when you make mistakes, which you will, when you fail, which you will, first of all, there's grace from God. We were stewarding His resources, and to be able to go back to Him first and go, okay, God, what do you want me to do here? The first thing is that just to know I'm loved by Him and that he has grace for me. That was so freeing. And then just to find grace from my boss was really nice.
Right.
And then, we just leaned into it and go, okay, well, maybe what we know is not what God wants to do. Maybe God's doing something in us that's going to lead to maybe even a stronger ministry.
Yeah.
So grace, I think, we just learn grace through failure, and you learn to give grace.
Yeah, and it's a great lesson to learn that our self-worth is not based on our performance of who we are. So many people get lost in their identity being a job, or being a person's kid, or a spouse of someone, or what they did when they were younger. But our identity should be in we are a child of the King, a child of Christ, and it is a hard lesson to learn, because it's usually you have to hit the bottom a little bit before you kind of learn that.
Yeah, I mean,
sometimes
John the Baptist understood it, right? I mean, John 3 is, I must decrease.
Yeah.
He must increase. And we don't like decreasing, but that's actually what's best for us.
Yeah.
Because then we find grace and love of God.
Yeah. I mean, our culture says increase personally. Yeah, absolutely. Question number 3, Geoffrey, what are you learning now?
I think probably just in working on multiple jobs, multiple ministry fronts, and then also working with my wife in business and raising kids and all the things. It's just that I can't do it all, that I'm not meant to do it all.
Come on, man.
Yeah. I know that it's probably obvious to everybody else, but it's taken me, I'm still learning that lesson. And here's what's cool is it seems like the more ministry, especially, that I give away, the more God does. And I've just been really encouraged this year as I've taken on some additional responsibility, that I've learned to trust more people with more things.
Yeah.
And that actually has led to more fruit, spiritual fruit.
That's right.
In our church ministry and at Hope Road. And it's just been really fun to be a part of.
Yeah. It reminds me of the Moses and Jethro talk.
That's right.
And he says, it's not good that you're doing all these things, and spread it out. Build other leaders. Leaders build leaders.
Yeah.
But you can't just say, just watch me all the time. It's like, okay, you need to go do, and let me come alongside you and help. And like you said, hand it off. Delegate. Build leadership.
I actually brought a list of things for you to take care of for me.
Oh, all right. Let's do that. All right. Let's move to question number 4. Okay. Who is an East Texan that you know that we should know besides your wife?
Okay. Well, I wanted to say Jill Davis, but she's been mentioned before.
She has
on the
been.
podcast.
She has.
Yeah, she has. And she's, I think, the most talented person in East Texas. And she's beautiful inside and out and fun to be around. You got to know her. So you do know her. You're lucky.
Well, I know. And creative off the charts.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, unbelievable. Just drive around Marshall, look at some of the murals there.
Yeah.
It's got Jill Davis's stamp on it.
That's right. And she's awesome. I'm thinking about people who others may not know. And there's several people that come to mind, but I want to do a shout out that's like a little closer to home. It's someone that works on my staff.
Okay.
Chelsea Boer.
Okay.
Chelsea lives in Hallsville. Kids go to school at Marshall. She's our children's minister at the Marshall campus, but she's an incredible leader. She's got a real gift for caring for people in a way that helps them grow, speaking truth. She thinks in systems, and she always has the right questions to ask. She's a person who her influence goes far beyond her position. She's not a forceful leader, though. She's patient, and she waits for opportunities. And actually, I think God just gives her opportunities and puts her in places where she can influence people. But we've had several people on our Longview campus who've gotten to serve with Chelsea on some teams.
Oh, yeah. I've
recently.
worked with her. Yeah.
And I think she's just doing a great job in ministry, but also not just for the Marshall campus, but for the whole church.
Yeah.
And so
she's been great to work with.
If there's Mobberly people listening, go to the website. Go look at Chelsea's face on the website on the staff page, and then find her and encourage her. Yeah, she's doing a great job.
Yeah, she's wonderful, and we work together on preparing a lot of things for a church-wide emphasis for Advent. Mm-hmm. It was just great to work with her, and she has thought through things, but she also listens to things.
Yeah.
Which is a great balance, and I think you have to have it. All right, so question number 5, what's something that you've read that we should read?
Well, that's a good question. Here's my answer for the general audience. The general audience. There's a book by Andy Crouch called The Life We're Looking For.
The Life We're Looking For.
The Life We're Looking For. And it's about how we use technology. And he's got another book about how technology can be thought of and used intentionally in the household, which I think is really important for families, especially parents. Technology will rule our lives, and it wants to be a god. And that's really the message behind that. Is it talks about like how the New Testament says, no man can love both God and money. And because one of them will win.
Yeah.
And that he talks about that idea of mammon. We often translate it money, but it's really this idea of like what drives you. And really what's driving our lives right now is technology. And we need to reorient how we think about technology in terms of the gospel. There's another book I'll give one for the men in the room. It's the best book I read in 2024. It's called The Sex Talk You Never Got. And it's by a guy named Sam Jolman, who is a counselor, but he provides an incredible theology of sex for men, especially, and women can read it and benefit from it for sure. But he does a lot of great work about what it's like to be a godly man and have a healthy relationship with sex in all the ways that it comes at us in the world today. It's a really redeeming book and a helpful book.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really rich. Question number 6, Geoffrey. What's something that you've done that we should do? What's an experience?
Yeah, okay. This is a good one. This is something my family and I like to do because we live in Marshall. I never knew about this until we lived in Marshall. The Longhorn ammunition plant, some people will remember from years ago, decades ago, was purchased by the federal government. They've done tons of soil remediation and everything so you don't step on a landmine or something, but it's almost 9,000 acres of usable space on the banks of Caddo Lake, just outside of Marshall, just to the north. And it's now called the Caddo Lake National Wildlife Refuge. Here's what's cool about it. Miles and miles of roads and trails that you can go out there and just almost get lost on. But you'll never get lost because it's inside a fence. So you don't have to worry about that. You'll eventually find your way out. You see a gator every once in a while. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Then I like to describe it like the Hunger Games, if you've ever seen those, like this dystopian, post-apocalyptic kind of world out there where it like just looks like it's been untouched for millennia almost. And you'll be walking through the woods and then you'll open up into a clearing or just right in the middle of the trees. There will be all these like half concrete structures that look like a building used to be there, and with weeds and trees growing all up in it and through it. And you can kind of climb around and walk and explore. And it's just it's kind of eerie, but it's really, really fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So it's the Caddo
Lake National Wildlife Refuge.
Okay.
Take your bicycle, have a good time.
All right. Need to do that for sure. It's such a pretty area, and everybody talks about the beauty of just Caddo Lake.
Yep.
For sure. Absolutely. Yep. Question number 7, our most important question. What's a way that we can pray for Geoffrey Davis?
Thanks, man. Yeah, pray for my family. We just want to be a family that honors God in all things, and pray for us as we serve people and love people, as we build community, and as we really try to live out the gospel. I mean, we just really covet your prayers for that. There's a specific way I get to be a part of a ministry in January of some Christian businessmen who are going on a ski trip, and I get to go speak to them this January, and I'm really excited about it. Appreciate prayer for that as God puts those messages on my heart for those men. And then there's always just that our business, that God will bless our business and grow so that we can provide for our family.
Awesome. Well, let me pray for you now.
Thanks.
All right. God, thank you so much for the time to talk with Geoffrey today. And God, I just pray a blessing over his family. And God, that you would use them in powerful ways, but you would also show yourself to them in unique and supernatural ways, God. I pray for the business that they own. I pray for Geoffrey as he leads Hope Road and the Marshall campus. God, give him wisdom, give him strength, give him a shepherd's heart God, I pray for this upcoming ski trip that he will lead, and I just pray that as he pours into the people that will attend that, God, that you'd use him in a powerful way. God, thank you for Jill and the kids, and God, we lift them up to you right now in the name of Jesus. Amen. All right. Well, thank you so much,
Brandon.
man. It's always a joy, whether there's a mic in front of us or not.
Agreed.
But I appreciate your friendship, your partnership in ministry. You're making a big difference.
Wow.
And I always felt like, man, that's one of the best compliments, because that's our prayer, right? God, would you just use us in some small way to make a dent in your big kingdom, and that he would be gracious enough to use us. And I know he's using you, and I'm thankful for you, buddy.
Thanks, man.
All right. Well, thank you guys for being a part of the Hey East Texas family. I want to encourage you to share this episode with somebody that needs to hear it. Somebody that maybe has gone to Hope Road, and maybe somebody that goes to Marshall and they're looking for a church home maybe. And you could share it and say, hey, you want to get to know the guy that is the pastor there. And you can share this episode, and hopefully God will use it in a special way. Well, thank you so much for subscribing to YouTube and just helping us grow this great podcast. We love East Texas. We know God's placed us here, and we want to celebrate the people and the stories in it. I hope you have a great day. We'll talk with you soon.